Artificial sweeteners such as aspartame, acesulfame K, sucralose, and saccharin are widely marketed as safe, calorie-free alternatives to sugar, yet their impact on appetite regulation and liver health is far from benign. While they do not contribute calories directly, mounting evidence suggests that these compounds interfere with the brain's natural reward and satiety pathways, often creating a paradoxical effect. Instead of helping with weight management, they can drive overeating, increase total caloric intake, and indirectly accelerate fat deposition in the liver. For individuals consuming these sweeteners regularly, particularly in combination with processed foods and sugary beverages, the long-term metabolic consequences can be substantial, silently promoting non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD, and other forms of metabolic dysfunction. The mechanism underlying this effect lies in the complex interaction between taste perception, neural reward circuits, and hormonal signaling. When the brain encounters sweetness, it anticipates a corresponding caloric load. Normally, the ingestion of sugar activates reward centers while simultaneously triggering hormonal signals such as insulin and leptin, which communicate satiety to the hypothalamus and regulate appetite. Artificial sweeteners, however, provide sweetness without the accompanying energy. This mismatch between sensory perception and caloric intake can desensitize the reward system over time, leading to a diminished sense of satisfaction and a heightened drive for additional food consumption. In other words, consuming diet-sweetened foods may leave individuals craving more calories later, often in the form of sugar or fat-laden foods, which directly stress the liver. Research has shown that people who regularly consume artificially sweetened beverages or foods often compensate by eating more later in the day, negating any theoretical calorie-sparing benefit. Studies using functional MRI imaging have demonstrated altered activity in brain regions associated with reward and craving in response to artificial sweeteners, suggesting that repeated exposure may reinforce patterns of overeating. This behavioral effect is not merely a minor inconvenience. Over weeks and months, it can lead to positive energy balance, weight gain, visceral adiposity, and hepatic fat accumulation. The liver, confronted with repeated influxes of glucose and triglycerides from these dietary behaviors, responds by storing fat in hepatocytes, increasing oxidative stress, and promoting inflammatory signaling pathways that drive NAFLD. Artificial sweeteners may also influence appetite through hormonal and microbiome-mediated pathways. Dysregulation of gut microbiota, which is increasingly linked to the consumption of aspartame and other non-nutritive sweeteners, can impair glucose tolerance, increase intestinal permeability, and elevate endotoxin delivery to the liver. This gut-liver axis disruption enhances hepatic inflammation and lipid accumulation, compounding the indirect effects of overeating triggered by reward system interference. Furthermore, altered secretion of hormones such as ghrelin, leptin, and GLP-1 in response to artificial sweeteners may further dysregulate hunger cues, making it more difficult for individuals to accurately gauge caloric needs and reinforcing a cycle of overconsumption. The hidden danger is especially pronounced in children, adolescents, and young adults, who are among the highest consumers of diet sodas, sugar-free snacks, and artificially sweetened processed foods. Early and repeated exposure to these compounds may condition the brain's reward circuitry to expect sweetness without calories, predisposing individuals to long-term overeating patterns, insulin resistance, and early hepatic fat deposition. Since NAFLD can develop silently, the metabolic consequences of these dietary habits may not be apparent until advanced liver disease is already underway. Moreover, the perception that artificial sweeteners are a safe substitute for sugar may encourage their use in combination with other high-calorie foods. For example, a person may consume a diet soda alongside a high-fat dessert or processed snack, rationalizing that the beverage offsets calories elsewhere. This mindset not only undermines weight control but also increases cumulative hepatic stress, as repeated caloric surges drive de novo lipogenesis and triglyceride storage in liver cells. Over time, this can accelerate oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, and low-grade inflammation within the liver, creating conditions that favor progression from simple steatosis to steatohepatitis and fibrosis. Practical implications are clear. Artificial sweeteners are not metabolically inert. While they avoid direct caloric contribution, their effects on appetite regulation, reward signaling, gut microbiota, and hormonal balance can paradoxically increase total calorie consumption and promote hepatic fat accumulation. For liver protection, The safest strategy is to limit or avoid non-nutritive sweeteners entirely, replacing them with whole, minimally processed foods and beverages that provide fiber, protein, and slow-release carbohydrates, which naturally support satiety and metabolic stability. Water, herbal teas, and naturally sweetened foods such as whole fruits provide sweetness without the hidden metabolic risks associated with artificial compounds. In conclusion, artificial sweeteners like aspartame and acesulfame K represent a subtle yet potent threat to liver health. By tricking the brain's reward system, disrupting hormonal signaling, and altering gut microbiota, they create conditions that encourage overeating and higher calorie intake, indirectly fueling liver fat accumulation and NEFLD progression. Their widespread use in beverages and processed foods makes them a silent contributor to modern metabolic disorders, highlighting the importance of awareness, restraint, and informed dietary choices to preserve long-term hepatic function.